Bonjour à tous les passionnés de synthétiseurs qui aujourd'hui suivent le SynthFest 2022. Alors il se trouve que je suis en présence d'un monsieur qui s'appelle Harald Grosskopf. Harald Grosskopf fait partie un peu de la légende du synthétiseur pour avoir été dans les premières années de sa carrière un batteur qui a accompagné un nom célèbre du monde du synthé qui s'appelle Klaus Schulze. Donc il y en a parmi nous qui quelquefois ont vu au cours des tournées de Klaus Schulze, Harald Grosskopf accompagner celui qui était à un moment donné le maître des synthés, le maître de la musique planante et des séquenceurs. I would like to ask you the first question is when you started to do music, the music was very improvised. Do you think that now it's possible to play in the same way, to keep this way to play and to feel the music?
Of course, I think it's always possible. I mean, the technique changed a lot, as we can see here, and it's much more detailed, and it's much more pre-sounds, you know. In those days, it was not possible. You know, we had to take what we created, and you never could recreate that. And in this day, you can store sound. That's the difference. But on the other hand, there's always development, and I think it's a question of you know the way you want to do music, and so improvising is a higher standard for me, you know.
I have a little story to tell you. I have been told that the first time you met Klaus Schulze in his studio, in fact he had no drums, and you were a drummer.
Yeah.
And it has been said that you used the forks, the plates of the kitchen, and you play the drums this way, perhaps just to try and to.
I mean, I think every drummer does that. You know, when you somehow get fascinated by drummings, and then you take whatever you can get in your hands and drum on anything you can reach, and your surroundings, you know, most of the time they don't like it very much, you know. So.
And when you discovered the music of Klaus Schulze and played with him, did you think at that moment that you would play yourself synthesizer perhaps later and do your own music?
No, definitely not. I until a special moment I always saw myself as a drummer, you know, and accompanying in the first place, you know, beat music and then rock music, and then slowly I started accompanying like Ashra Temple, and I discovered that I could do different things. You know, I could first improvising, because before that, you know, we had very straight arrangements and we rehearsed like crazy, and so there was a lot of brain involved, and with Klaus and Ashra there was much more, or there was mainly emotion involved, you know, and authenticity, and you can hear that, you know.
You can see today at the SynthFest of France, synthesizer festival of France. You see that many people come back to the analog synthesizers. There are many little makers, people who try to do copies of the vintage synthesizer, but sometimes they add new technologies, digital functions, new modules. Do you think that this is a very good thing to come back to this technology and find again the emotions that we can get from these technologies, the analog instruments?
Yeah, I see many times. I see musicians, they have packed the whole room full of synthesizers up to the ceiling, but the music doesn't, you know, compare to what we did in those times. It's just a copy, you know. And I like people that are inventing new stuff, you know. And I just was exactly down here. There's somebody who created a synthesizer which is very, very close to analog sounds. You know, it sounds like a string, and you can manipulate and you can combine. And I really like this kind of stuff. I'm not so much into musicians that copy our style, you know. It's okay if you do that, but it doesn't fascinate me, you know.
So you think that today it is possible to combine the sensitivity that we had with the analog instruments with the new technology? There is
exactly,
a mixing which is possible.
And I think it's a question of you know, of time, that the computer can regenerate analog fields, you know. It's because most of the time the computers are just, the capacity is not big enough to create these how do you say that, you know, to create the technique to come close to analog sound technique, you know, these delicate little differences.
I have a question for you as a drummer. I know a musician who is an Englishman is Tim Blake. Tim Blake is very famous for the people who like the cosmic music. One day he told me, I think the people like Klaus Schulze, Tangerine Dream, they did a very quiet music, cosmic music, but it was because they had no the drum machines. Do you think it's true?
No, because people told me I play like a machine, you know. So because I was, especially with Klaus, I pumped the bass drum, you know. But
yes, but finally you adapted your style to the cosmic music.
Yeah, you know? Exactly, yeah. And it was not so meant to the dance floor like later techno, where the bass drum was a very important. I love techno, and we kind of started in this direction. But Klaus always reduced my drum volume, you know.
You know, I like very much the track floating.
Yeah, it was more percussive, you know.
We can hear very well the drums, and especially the cymbals. How do you say in English?
Yeah, cymbals. Yeah.
Cymbals. It's very important to the music, and I think it gives the way you play as something like jazz music.
Yeah, jazz music is improvised, you know, and you can combine, you can see similarities between jazz and our music.
You are a drummer. You play less and less often drums. Huh?
Yeah, because I'm getting old, and drum is a very sportive, you know.
Finally, do you think it's a pity, or do you find interesting to use also the digital drums, the machines to play the rhythms?
Yeah, I play play drums on the keyboard, you know. But I'm more interested in composing music, you know, and harmonies, and so the drums is not the main thing for me.
About your sorry to come back again to your association with Klaus Schulze. I often wonder, to me, listening to Moondawn, to Body Love. Did you play the drums at the same time Klaus did the sequence, for example,
yes.
Or did you play after?
No, never.
At the same time?
It was always.
It was a real connection.
Yeah. Sometimes he added little things, maybe a sound or maybe a solo was, but it was mainly all together.
You know that during these years, Klaus said that you were the only drummer who had the ability to follow sequencer.
Yeah, when I heard it the first time, it was in the cellar of Klaus' house, and I had goosebumps when I heard a sequencer the first time, and I remember that a lot of drummers, you know, when they hear a timing, you know, they're getting scared. Not me, you know. If I hear a motor, you know, a motorboat like ding, ding, boom, ding, ding, on the Rhine River, you know, it's a groove, you know. So I like machine grooves very, very much, and from the first time I loved it.
Now that you are in the SynthFest France, do you think that there are still machines that we need to invent that have not been invented? Are there machines, instruments that you would like to exist on, which does not exist until?
That's a heavy question. I don't know what I'm opening. I hope, but you know, this machine I just listened to. I really liked it because it is so much to nature, and it's a machine, and I like that very much. It
speaks to you.
Yeah, exactly. It's inspiring, you know.
Can you speak a little about what your projects now? What your purpose?
Well, the pandemic was a very quiet time. I couldn't perform, but I have international connection. I met a DJ from Mexico who's well known. I didn't know that. I'm not now following him. He's playing a lot. He's very well known. He does very interesting things. He has two projects. One thing is Nortec, and that's mariachi music with techno, incredible night. On the other hand, he's DJing techno. He's a fan of mine, and he said, let's do something together, and we did put out a digital album. We're working now on another one, and he invited me to come to Mexico next year, and we will film it, and I will speak about Krautrock, my career, and with Wolfgang Flür from Kraftwerk together. So I hope it will work. Stuff like that happens. So
I imagine that you often meet people who are younger than you.
Oh yeah.
Sorry to say that, but do you find that it's a problem or a pity sometimes that people don't know the story of electronic music? They have not listened to the old vintage electronic music. Do you think that they lack of something? There is a lack of something?
It's natural,
cultural point.
It's natural. We didn't look very much back when we were young because I couldn't cope with Elvis. I didn't like it very much, and so the new generation. That's the same thing, On the other hand, they have much more information than we did, We had to go in the record store, we had to sit at the radio and waiting for new release, and now you are pushed and overthrown with all kinds of mass information, music information, and that's hard to select. So it's natural that they don't know, and that's okay.
You did a record called Synthesist, which was quite successful. It is important music in your career.
Yeah.
And you did several mixing, new versions.
I did it. I did it yesterday. It was very hard because I lost the original tapes because my plan was to get as close as possible. But the feeling and the naivety I had in those times, and the primitivité, of these times, you can't repeat that, And I have more experience. I'm not that naive anymore, and so it's not easy to reproduce it, and it's not my idea really. I always struggle when somebody, can you play? I do it, but I love to create new stuff, stuff which is touching me. The old stuff is past and it's okay, but to repeat that, there should be always new parts to it. So I add things, and then in the end it doesn't sound originally like a rock band that is playing a program,
You have traveled a lot to play music on many stages in the world.
In Japan, I was in China 3 years ago. That was a very good experience.
Are there countries that you feel in which you feel better to play, where the public is more has more attention? Is more
in China, it was maybe a place like that. It was packed with people, like 500-600 people, and nobody was older than 25. Yeah. And it was an incredible experience, Many Chinese people knew what I was doing, and it was broadcasted. 500,000 people saw it via a sort of YouTube, but it was just China. It was incredible. Perfect technique, nice people, very modern, camera, screening, technique. High sophisticated. I was very surprised about China.
You know the Superboot in Germany?
Yeah.
Do you think here in France there is a special atmosphere, something different, because of the character of the people?
No, I think this is some international community. It's not that big, but it can grow. Like in the Superbooth was very small, and it surprised them that it suddenly bang, boom. This could be happening here too. But I think the character of the people are very similar.
Do you also say something more to the French public, the fans of synthesizers, the fans of electronic music?
Buy a synthesizer and make music.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It was a great pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.